I think we can all agree that the ESPY awards are stupid and meaningless. The ESPY is supposed to stand for Excellence in Sports Performance Yearly Award, but as you will see in this video, sports performance has nothing to do with this pointless award. Maybe that's why most people don't pay attention to them. I don't either. It's probably been more than 20 years since I watched them. But this year's ESPY for the best male tennis player caught my eye, because they went beyond stupid and did something that you should never do.
Never go full retard.
Then I got curious and decided to look up the last 5 ESPY awards for best tennis player, and I found that almost all of them were ridiculous in their own way. So in today's video, we're going to rank the last 5 ESPYs for the best tennis player, from mildly dumb to completely idiotic. Let's begin. Number 5 on our list is the 2021 ESPY. This one rates as the least dumb of the 5 because I don't see anything wrong with it. Djokovic, Nadal, Medvedev and team were nominated, and Djokovic won. And if we look at their accomplishments over the previous year, it was the correct choice. Djokovic won 2 slams, Nadal won, and team won. Djokovic won 2 Masters to Nadal and Medvedev's 1. And Medvedev won the ATP Finals title. That adds up to 4 big titles for Novak, 2 for Nadal and Medvedev, and 1 for team. These numbers may look weird to you, because we all know Djokovic won 3 slams in 2021. But because the ESPYs are held in June, they look at the results from June of previous year to June of current year. So for 2021, they consider results from 2020 Wimbledon to 2021 French Open. In addition to winning the most big titles, Novak also finished the season as number 1 and broke the all-time record for weeks at number 1. It's clear from the number of big titles, as well as other accomplishments, that Novak was the deserving winner. I also agree that the other 3 players deserved to be nominated. It's important to note that an ESPN nominating committee chooses the award candidates, and then fans, journalists, and retired athletes vote for the winner. In 2021, both the nominating committee and the voting panel made the correct choices. This is the only year on our list when this happened. In number 4, we have the 2017 ESPYs. 4 players were nominated: Federer, Nadal, Murray, and Wawrinka. Each of them won a Grand Slam title. Federer, Nadal, and Murray also won a couple of Masters titles. But Murray also won the ATP Finals and finished the year as number 1. However, the ESPY went to Federer. This is the first undeserved award for Federer on this list, but not the last. Number 3 on the list is 2018. Only 3 players were nominated: Federer, Nadal, and Cilic. Federer and Nadal split the 4 Grand Slams, but Nadal had 1 more Masters title than Federer, and he also finished the year as number 1. But the award, for the 2nd consecutive year, undeservedly went to Federer. I also question why they nominated Cilic, who didn't win anything. Zverev won 2 Masters and Dimitrov won a Masters and ATP Finals. Either one of them would be a better nominee. But then again, this is still quite low on the stupidity scale, and is barely a warm-up for the absolute shit show that were the 2019 ESPYs. This one was spectacularly nonsensical. The nominees were Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and Tsitsipas. First of all, Tsitsipas won nothing that year. Fonini, Thiem, Khachanov, and Zverev all won a big title, but they were not nominated. I don't get it, but okay. Let's go back to the nominees. Federer didn't win any Grand Slams. Claydol won, surprise surprise, the French Open, and Djokovic won the other 3 slams. When it comes to Masters titles, Federer had 1, Nadal 2, and Djokovic 3. That's 1 big title for Federer, 3 for Nadal, and 6 for Djokovic. As a cherry on top, Djokovic also finished the season as number 1 in the world. But guess what? For the 3rd year in a row, the ESPY went to Federer. This is so idiotic that we must take a moment to appreciate it and break it down. Federer only won Miami Masters, didn't even make a Grand Slam final, finished the year as number 3 in the world, and then he won the award for Best Tennis Player. The best. As I mentioned before, 4 other players won Masters titles and they were not even nominated. I suspect that the only reason why the ESPN committee nominated Tsitsipas was to put somebody on the ballot who did even less than Roger that year. Obviously, the only reason why Roger got the award is because of the fan vote. Because just like the fan favorite and sportsmanship awards, ESPYs are just another popularity contest. Don't get me wrong, I don't care about popularity contests. When I found this information, my first reaction was laughter. But as I gave it more thought, I gained a less amusing perspective on these voting results. A simplistic way to look at it is that Federer has the biggest fan base, and they voted for him even though he objectively didn't deserve it. But I've spoken to enough Federer fans over the years to understand that this attitude is not necessarily harmless. In many cases, it's toxic and rooted in hatred for Djokovic. How many times have you heard a Federer fan say, "I don't care if Djokovic has all the records, he will never be loved and respected like Roger and Rafa"? The biggest problem with this sentiment is that to justify the real reasons for their intolerance towards Novak, reasons that they will never admit, they have embraced an extremely negative image of Novak that the mainstream media has fabricated over the years. The truth is that Novak is not a villain. Far from it. He is one of the best sportsmen on the tour, he's always gracious in defeat, something that Federer and Nadal are not, and is the biggest advocate for players' rights by a long distance. Yet nobody is painted more negatively by the media and hated by rival fans than Novak. Why? Because he occasionally breaks a racket? Bullshit. He beat their favorites and he comes from the wrong country. That's the truth that they will never admit. The 2019 ESPY vote, just like the 2020 Fan Favorite Award, is toxic and embarrassing. They are embarrassing for those who voted for Federer, as they should be embarrassing to Federer himself. It's funny that the media and rival fans constantly repeat that Novak is desperate to be loved, when he has made so many unpopular decisions. For better or for worse, he always follows his own convictions. On the other hand, Federer and Nadal hide behind their PR teams, always go along with the popular opinions, and even pretend to be friends as a publicity stunt. And while the media and their delusional fans shower them with cringe-worthy awards, it never occurred to Roger and Rafa that maybe they should take it down a notch. Maybe it's not such a good look to win the award for best player when you don't even make a Grand Slam final. Maybe it's a bit much that two players win the Sportsmanship Award for 18 consecutive years, when there are 1,800 other players on the tour. And if your fans are unreasonable enough to vote you in as the fan favorite, even though you played one match all season, maybe you should be the adult in the room, tell them that you appreciate them, but that there are hundreds of other deserving players. But what do I know? Roger and Rafa pay professionals to manage their public image. They know what's best. Speaking of the best, we have counted down to the stupidest ESPY award for best tennis player in the last 5 years, the 2022 ESPYs. Let's start with the player stats. Nadal won 2 Grand Slams, and Djokovic and Medvedev won each. Nadal didn't win any Masters titles, while Djokovic and Alcaraz each won 2, and Medvedev had 1. That's 2 big titles for Nadal, Medvedev and Alcaraz, while Djokovic led with 3. Djokovic also finished the season as number 1 and broke the all-time record for year-end number 1s, a historic accomplishment. However, the ESPY went to Nadal. This is a controversial decision, especially considering Nadal's Australian asterisk. And let's not forget that Novak was 1 match away from completing the calendar year slam. But what makes this ESPY the worst on the list is not the fact that Nadal won it. It is the fact that Djokovic and Medvedev were not even nominated. That's right. The man who won the most big titles, broke a historic record, and fell 1 match short of calendar year Grand Slam was not even nominated. Why? Because the cowardly, woke, spineless nominating committee could not take the risk that the guy who refused the COVID injection wins. ESPN executives did not trust their peasant viewers to vote correctly, so they removed the politically incorrect option from the ballot. And why wasn't Medvedev nominated? Because he's Russian, and anyone who watches Hollywood movies knows that Russians are evil. Instead, Felix Auger-Aliassime was the third nominee. In case you're wondering, he didn't win any trophies, but he had 2 accomplishments that made him an acceptable candidate. He has a COVID certificate, and he's not Russian. One fan summed it up perfectly. My hatred for ESPN continues to grow. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you soon.